brought to you in part by listeners like you.
Welcome back to Neon Galactic, a podcast produced by PBS affiliate KeyTV in Northern California. I'm your host, James Falk. Thanks for joining us. If you've studied esoterica, and it hardly matters which slice of that intellectual pie you're enjoying, it all seems to revolve in some form or another around vibration, frequency, tones of coherence, sound, energy, and meaning. Science, while too often ignoring or even denigrating the source of such occulted knowledge, has come even closer to proving the point. String theory, harmonics, the vibrational nature of quanta, the propagation of waves in a nested tangle of fields that spread in every direction, then the sudden punctuation of particles emerging from noise like a faintly heard melodic line. Particular, something that suddenly stands out from background and blessedly does something singular, something interesting, a living declaration that makes a kind of fate from simple circumstance. Somewhere in these notions of sound and motion, tone and meaning, the universe's secret code gets cracked. Such, according first to the ancients and now the modern, is the basis of being. And we sense this, don't we? Music for humanity is a ticket to ride. Each note an identity, every chord a community, and we journey along the paths of song, translating the shifting sounds into a kind of gnosis, an empathic resonance that communicates the finer shades of emotional experience and allows for existential, if momentary, transcendence. This, in part, is the thesis of UFO Symphonic, a new book by author, journalist, and musician Mike Fiorito, one that outlines such arguments while presenting an array of anomalous experiences involving music, often UFOs, human consciousness, and sundry. A lifelong musician and student of music, Fiorito's work here reminds me how we often take for granted our most magical inheritance, music, even as we desperately deploy it to achieve a kind of flight, cross vast distances, and journey back through the long neglected realms of soul. As he says, it's a passport to the cosmos, an invitation to dream amid cascading harmonies and the torture of becoming. I'm thrilled to have Mike back on the show. Welcome.
Wow, thank you, James. That was a great introduction. I just loved what you said, and you hit on so many things as you clearly read the book and thoroughly looked at the different threads and brought it together as you do what you've done before so wonderfully. So thank you for that, and thanks for having me on the show. It's great to chat with you and share ideas. So
absolutely. I loved your book. And I am also a musician. I mean, amateur hour, I played at clubs and stuff, but was never a professional by any means, but there are so many doorways through music that lead to transcendental moments, and you cover those in the book, and you also go much broader than sort of the typical ways of sort of enchanting ourselves through it, but I just loved it. I love the collection of stories and how it ties it all together, and then there's like a philosophical and spiritual framing that you build, which I think is also important. But let's start with give a simple explanation of what the premise of the book is and what you felt was your mission in starting out, what you were trying to capture.
yeah, well, thank you. I think to be honest, when I started to write the book, so I know that music has a deliteralizing power to it, and it can it helps us transcend, and that's not a new story. I mean, that goes back to the ancients, for sure, to musical spheres. But that's not really what I wanted to cover. What I learned as I was writing the book, and I'm not giving some pithy description of the book, but I wanted to say something about the process, is I had initial ideas about what I wanted to do with the book, which was that music is kind of like myth. It's this leaping off point that takes us to places where words cannot describe. It takes us to what Jung called collective unconscious, Akashic records. It brings us into a greater field of, I'm going to say, experience, and that includes non-human experience. And then as I began to write and to research the book, it sort of began with music, but then you'll see it became UFO symphonic journeys into sound, because I realized that it's more than just music. Music is, for the most part, is, you could say, human beings, birds make music, whales make music, but it's this intentional framing of sound. So it's a little bit more structured. And yeah, I mean, birds create melodies and they repeat those melodies. Whales have songs and they repeat those songs. So there's something to that. But then I discovered that there's first of all, the music is made of sound. And everything is, you talked about vibrations at the beginning. So, I mean, rocks vibrate with a frequency. Everything in the universe is crackling with sounds, making noise. I also discovered that, things like binaural beats, that there's something incredibly powerful about, and this was something I hadn't done before. I began using, it was actually through an interview with Marla Freeze, and she said, she gave me this whole other world to explore. So I started to check out yoga, doing yoga or sound baths, so sound therapy with chimes and bells. And then I came upon binaural beats. So binaural beats is where, and for those who haven't heard of it before, it's where you have two frequencies. You're wearing a headset and they're going at different frequencies. And it creates this kind of warble effect, which is like,
well, it reminds me of when you're tuning a guitar, and you're listening to the beat of the tuning, and and you're waiting for it to line up.
Yes.
And so there's particular ones that achieve effects on your consciousness, and people have been deploying that. I mean, astral travel, out-of-body experiences, those sorts of things are apparently achievable through that technology. That would be fascinating.
Have you done that before? Have you tried the binaural beats?
I have a couple of times, and I enjoyed it, and I felt like I had I achieved something. But I always find that I just enjoy my meditative practice. It's like something about the setting it up and doing it. It's like I'm more comfortable just sitting. But I mean,
sure. And I did it as part of the research. I found it, so it has, when you go into that state, it's very empowering, and you begin to get these hypnagogic, I'll say, images or motifs. So they're like dream things that begin to emerge. Sometimes they emerge as beings. They're kind of archetypal. I like what Jung said. Jung said that myths think their way through us into being. I love that. That the archetypes are a thing themselves, that they're independently existing, and they kind of, through us, they bring themselves in. And I remember there's one experience I had where I'm lying down and these things would just pop into my head, and it was like kind of almost a doom sweeping, but my grandmother would call it straight, kind of a witch, and she was yelling at me and stuff. And you think, well, is that me? Who's that? Is that me? Is that, it's probably me. But there, Robert Monroe, who invented, with other people who created this binaural, the notion of he felt in his books are amazing. I read them researching this project, that he encountered beings. Now it's interesting, who seemed to know way more than he did, and they were giving him knowledge. They were trying to teach him. They even had a sense of humor. They were trying to teach him about, for the benefit of all humanity, which is a theme that occurs throughout the book. but it occurs also in UFO encounters, people who have encounters with visitors. There's this thing that it seems like the universe is trying to teach us.
Yeah.
And that's just like one modality. Then there are other things too that I discovered. So things like rhythms, just rhythms alone. And there's a full field. It's a gigantic field. Whether that rhythm, if you think about it, and just music that makes you get up and move and does things to you. Maybe it creates a state of mind. It's very primal. 4 on the floor. That kind of that feels hard. And what I'm saying is that it just I found myself going far afield from where I began, and delightfully. One thing that was important to me in writing, and I realize for some people, they may want a UFO book that it's got all of the checkbox of UFO stuff. I don't do that. I don't write books by decree. I let the process take me. But I brought into this book, as I'm sure you saw, mythology, anthropology, musicology. I wanted to go deep into subject matter to help bring in other ways to express this thing and not be so prescribed that it's this and it's only that. There was a process of discovery.
There's a Ray Hernandez. He wrote a bunch of books along with a bunch of other people about basically what we're encountering with the UFO and other paranormal phenomenon is a contact modality. It's like basically allows us different ways to engage that transcendent realm or whatever. It struck me that this very much fits, and the music and sound fits into that paradigm of like, it can experientially kick off the contact experience or the transcendental experience, and it's something that humans have known throughout its history. And if you go back to tribal communities and, even today, I think that trance, dancing, and Sufi, all of that, it's like the connective power of music and the ability of it to entrain people allows for a capacity of consciousness that we don't typically access, and I find that lovely and fascinating.
I completely agree. It is a contact modality, and I think on so many levels, and I tried to investigate some of that. And some people have experiences. Some people have experiences with UFOs that are just silent. It's just silent. It's this thing, and the silence is part of its like arresting power. This gigantic thing has this incredible presence, and it's zero noise. But some people have experiences where there's what was a common theme amongst people was this ethereal music that was the most beautiful, angelic music we've ever heard. This incredible kind of symphony of gorgeous sound. That's the way they described it. I didn't put those words into their mouths. I was on different podcasts. I was beginning to write the book. I was on your podcast. I talked about UFOs and flying in its nascent stages. And then people reached out and it kind of happened that way. So not everyone has that experience. And it seems to me, and I've said this before, I probably said it to you, in music, there's information. There's a lot of information packed into music. And I kind of feel that non-human intelligence, this is one way to send a message. And that message could be, perhaps it's being communicated every day in ways that we're not hearing. I walk outside this room and have this incredible collection of birds, this super sophisticated conversation that's going on, for which I have no idea what's happening. And I think to myself, is this some kind of physics, like some time travel, mathematics, and instructions that we're not perceiving, we're not aware of? and it's a test.
Yeah.
You know, we're
It's like
kind of at,
you
yeah.
mentioned Ea Watley, and you talked to her in the book, and or Whiteley, and
Hmm.
her work is very much about like engaging with nature on that level and trying to extract the meanings that we've lost because we've become deaf to the language and the sound of nature. And so, starting with children, she wants to train them to be more open to that, and eventually, get to the semantics of natural sound. And I mean, that's I mean, even talking about it, I get chills because I just interviewed her recently for a piece I did on the Soul Conference, and she is on another level, man. She is so, I mean, I feel like she's alive with spirit somehow. She almost glows with whatever she's connecting with, and that I think there's a lot to be learned from that. And I think that it's interesting because I think that something about nature and vibration and all of that is so, it's like if we were ocean-going creatures, it's our natural environment. Like we're kind of swimming through vibration, and we've become immune to it, except in special circumstances when we set it apart and we say, okay, this is music. But it's always ongoing, and there's so much we can learn. I mean, one of the things that amazes me about music, I'm going on a tirade, and I should let you talk, but
No, please.
the way that music communicates emotion so effectively. And I've often thought about that. Like I took a music theory class and we went through the circle of fifths and all of those sorts of things. And it was a great class if you're playing the band because you learn everything you'd ever need to learn about stuff. And for some reason, out of all my classes, that stuck with me more than any of the other stuff. But the tension and release aspects of it tell a story. And so you're able to convey an emotional journey without words. So you're basically taking an emotional template from one source who wrote the music, and you're putting that emotionality into someone else. It's a form of communication, almost telepathic, and how it's like a resonance that arises in another person when they hear those same vibrations. And all it is like, whether something builds tension or releases tension, the arc of the movement of the chords and melody to kind of build that tension and resolution. And I think it's important that it's the same mechanics that go on like in fiction, where you want to build tension, you want to have conflict, and those sorts of the same things are coming through in musical ideas. And so in the same way, it takes you on a journey.
Journey into sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's true, and there's, and that is kind of magic too. There's a quote in the book from Jerry Garcia. It's like, magic is what we do, music is how we do it. And if you think of, well, I think of, at least for me, and I realize I'm stuck on things like melody. I think most of us are. We may not consciously be aware of it. But say, for instance, in bluegrass, but not just in that, but in bluegrass, the emphasis is remember the melody. So, and it's true even in other music. Our favorite guitar players, our favorite instrumentalists, if you lose the melody, if you just shred it, you've lost the communication to some extent. I realize that is a total journey too. Interesting, right? But there's something about this melodic thing, this taking us along, and a step by step, holding our hands and bringing us to a place. And music does has that incredible power to, yes, it takes us to memories. We don't have to speak that language. I write in the book, it could take forever to learn a language, to communicate with people who don't speak your language. But music is instant. We can converse. We can have musicians playing different instruments, never having met before, and have this telepathic. I talk about that with Josh Cutchin in a conversation. It's in the book. And where we came to with Josh, because he didn't have a whip-bang a moment that he could express. But what he said is that there's a kind of telepathy that happens. I'm doing something. I've introduced something. You didn't know I was introducing. And then the band now follows them. And it's very organic. And what happens is what people will say is this is the phenomena of manifesting. You feel it. You feel that very precious thing. I know I've experienced it playing, and I've also seen it live with live music. We're extraordinary musicians, and you can hear a pin drop because they've done that magic thing. Sometimes we have to hear it live. There's something about live music. It's in the moment, and you know the risk. You know the high wire act that's going on.
Yeah.
And I was with my wife. We went to see Kenny Barron in the village, Greenwich Village. Kenny Barron, probably one of most important living piano players, jazz pianists who has connections to the roots of jazz. And there were parts where we were just giggling because it was so beautiful. This tapestry of, he was composing on the moment. Yes, this was composition, but he was also just creating this beautiful music. And then there are parts where literally it just had that emotional feel of this journey, this travel.
It's interesting you talk about the high wire act. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, please.
But being a musician, right? Like, I went through the stages of trying to learn how to be a soloist, like starting out and having a rudimentary knowledge of whatever scales that I was going to use and how keys work, and plank, 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 whatever the thing I was doing. And it was very mechanical, and like you said, it was like trying to fill the empty space with noise that won't sound bad. It was basically the strategy that I deployed. And then there's a moment when you've been doing it long enough and you've internalized your instrument. It's like at a certain point in your playing, you can play it in your head. You know what I mean? Like, you can look at and you know what the notes are going to sound like before you play them. And there's a moment there where it becomes like an extension of your mind or your body, and there's just a direct flow from one to the other. And so really masterful players aren't playing music, and they're delivering emotion to you through the music. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. And the high wire act is like, if you get self-conscious at all, it all falls apart. And that's what I figured out for myself, is that it takes confidence, and you need to not have any referential thinking going on. It's like you just have to be at one with what you're doing. And that sounds cheesy and trite, but it's absolutely the case. You just have to, it's like deliver it, channel it, kind of. And then you can go on these journeys and take other people with you. And then when you're in a crowd, of course, that energy is multiplied, and it really is magical.
Yeah. I mean, all of what you said, and I've had many experiences where I've thought, I hope now that non-human intelligence that wants to communicate with us is listening, because this is when we're at our best. Like, this is the gift. This is how we get we qualify on some level, and maybe there is something to that. Maybe there's something. Maybe this gift that we have, this music, maybe it possesses some kind of. You think of Close Encounters, the way that they communicate. Maybe there's some information in there, or some kind of. And I began playing with these ideas as a writer, writing fiction, writing kind of philosophical, speculative narrative, and I just began writing these ideas, falling from trees, and I just felt like I was going somewhere. I was paddling to somewhere. I was trying to get somewhere. But of course, this comes together in UFO. When I say UFO, as you know, as we've had conversations, UFO, the phenomenon, so that could include near-death experiences, it could include out-of-body experiences, it could include hypnosis, it could include a psychedelic experience, something that has kind of ontological, it may have ontological shock, power to knock you out of your kind of everyday non-listening, we're just kind of going without life. I think that's an important part of the book that I was trying to say, is that listening is is hearing and listening, paying attention, and that could be listening to the birds, listening to nature, awakening to, and I'm not preaching here, but awakening to this magic, this gift that we have to be on this planet alive, to share this earth, of which we are the earth. We are the earth. We consume, drink the water from the rivers, oceans, which come from the sky in this kind of cycle. Eating vegetables and plants that grow in the soil, and we are that soil.
We are Earth. We are absolutely the Earth. I mean, that's one of the things that we keep coming back to in recent shows, especially. We are Earth.
Yeah, and it's I love the wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. And that's a beautiful quote. And I think that's one layer, that terrestrial layer. Is just, we're still at the place where we're, for the most part, we're not even there. We're not even awake to the idea of, Apache, the word for mind, is the same word for man. That's fascinating. There's this continuity. I am that. I am that. I am that also. And music is just one modality. There are many others, and you'll notice in the book, I hardly make any great claims. I'm mostly speculating. Yeah. It's mostly, I try to understand, where does music come from? I don't know. Musicologists can't say. They believe that singing preceded speaking in words, which is interesting. But that the anatomy of singing preceded complex, what was required for articulation with words, which is, I think so much of our brain is occupied by the tongue, the use of tongue and mouth to create. As I'm speaking in real time, my mouth and tongue are orchestrating breath and subtle musculature to expel words that you comprehend. I mean, that alone is just like, geez, wow. And the fact that, when you look at, watch people sing, turn the volume up, just look at it. When you look at this thing we do, I do that sometimes. Like, when you go on Instagram, the speaker is on, listening to different music, when you're looking at it. And we almost look pathetic in some level, where and there's these things that we're doing that we're making little movements with our hands, and you think, well, do we really need music? It's funny because we do, in the sense that all of us, so many of us will say, oh, I can't live without it, but it's not like oxygen, it's not like food, but it's something it allows us to express the deepest aspects of who we are, to share. It's this communication that we're not conscious of. We're not conscious how complex and how important it is for our lives.
And I think that awareness of that kind of subtle energy is one of the few places in our lives where we have it. And I think that if we didn't have it, that capability would be even further stunted. And I mean, I even think that it's such a, people talk about alcohol as a social lubricant or whatever. I think music is that. And I think if we didn't have music as the relief valve for a lot of pressure and tension and love and drama, we would be way more dysfunctional than we already are.
Yeah. It's one of the it's a refuge that you can connect. You go to a bluegrass concert, there's no politics, no one's talking any politics. There's no, oftentimes it's something where, and hopefully always, where we can go and we can find commonality. I don't have to, I can get this stick that has a string on it, and it looks like, wow, how did they make this thing? It has 2 strings. And they're able to get this incredible, like in Uzbekistan, listening to videos, and these instruments that look very much handmade, or gourds, from different parts of the world. And then people are doing complex things like with their palms and with their fingers, sometimes knocking, like doing all these things. And it brings something to people. It unites people together. And as I said at the beginning, it has this power of, and it's in that way, it brings us into the realm of UFO phenomena that has this delocalization quality, that they're taken off of this kind of de facto pursuit. As we know, and as you mentioned at the beginning, science, where the palace of quarks is us into this the realm of the uncertainty. The uncertainty principle. Things are caught. They're both. They're only when we observe the nature influence as well. It's kind of phenomenal, this concept. And it's not that I firmly believe the power of science is incredible. It just doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't, and it will continue to evolve, and I appreciate science. I've always been a fan of science, certainly not anti-science. It's just the scientism, the limited thinking of, you are this ego and our rationalization, our rational mind, incredible things, but it's very important, and it's not the whole story.
And music does allow us. Yeah, exactly. It gets deeper down. It's like it grabs a hold of something that's beyond that intellectual sort of like armor and shakes us around in a good way. The science piece, I'm in full agreement with you in terms of, it's like science is amazing. It's improved our lives vastly. It's made us healthier. All the things that it's done, you could spend hours listing the benefits of science. But there's also an arrogance that's come along, and it's not science. That's more of a social phenomenon. But we get invested in the truths that we think we've discovered. I mean, science is about asking questions. The answers are never supposed to be certain. Any answer in science is a theory, and then you can, if you find that it doesn't fit, then you change it. We've become so enamored with some of our theories that we refuse to consider, evidence that may shake those foundations up.
Yeah.
People's careers and tenure and all those sorts of things become invested in these ways of thinking, and unfortunately that means that we block off whole realms of human experience and say, well, we can't approach that because it doesn't fit in with what we've deemed to be
paradigm.
Yeah, exactly, paradigm.
Well, Max Planck said, science progresses one funeral at a time, and it sounds macabre, but when you have someone who's the don of a university or something, and they reign supreme. What you were talking about is the structure of the scientific revolution. Thomas Kuhn wrote that book, very powerful book, and it's not to say, that there's a book I read by Stephen Weinberg a long time ago. The title of the book was "Dreams of the Final Theory," which is kind of funny when you think about it. It's, a final theory. It's so literal. I think. Yeah, it's like because I think that, and I think Bernardo Castro said it, something so characteristic. But it's like when we know, it's like we one up the universe. We know more. And Hawking said something like, the goal of science is nothing less than a complete description of the universe with something. And it's, man, this is so much. We go into this place, and when we dream into this double basement of ourselves, and something that's probably, it is deeper and bigger than us. There are parts of it that, and when we dream, or when we listen to music, or in other modalities, when we discover this thing that we are is way bigger than just us. I mean, the very fact that science tells me that there's more of not me in me than me. So if you took all of my DNA or all of the constituent parts of what makes me, there's more other fungi bacteria, other biota. That isn't me. That's living and host. I'm a host for that. Actually, who's the host? I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly right.
Kind of a fascinating thing, and I think this is when you contemplate this potential. I realize it's scary. It's scary to think you're not in control. It's scary to think that that the universe kind of sings through us and moves through us, and we feel like ghosts, or we're falling off the planet or something, floating away. And yeah, that's scary. It's also kind of inspiring too. And I'm certainly not imposing anything like you should do this. I'm only exploring. I've looked into these things, and I'm just sharing it with other people. And I realize that I have a friend who says, I said something like, "Oh God, look up at the stars." We were out upstate, a friend of my wife actually, and she said, "Yeah, that scares me. I don't want to think that. I don't want to look up. I don't want to." And when I thought about it, I said, that I understand. Who am I to be here, pontificating about what you should do? I'm just telling you, and you're free to ignore it.
What's interesting with that whole notion, I mean, it sort of does fit in with the discussion on science, because we like to think that we're in control, that we are, like you said, bigger than the universe in some ways. And so looking up at the stars and engaging in the immensity of everything, we become, in some ways, inconsequential. But in other ways, we become more involved and embedded, but it's all in how you engage with that information and where you're coming from when doing so. And so it can be, I'm sure, unsettling and, humbling in an existential kind of way, which is not always the most pleasurable experience. Yeah, I wanted to ask you something about sort of the archetypal power of music. The Beatles, right? And there have been other examples. But there are certain musical moments in the 20th century, say, and even beyond, but I mean, from what I know, and musical performers capture this energy that seems to be transcendent, not only for them, but for a whole generation. Like, it captures an energetic bubble and pushes it and shapes it and makes it into something even more transformative than it would have been otherwise. And I think of the Beatles, and I think of Elvis Presley, and it's like these moments where there was a social thing going on, and the music caught it and pushed it and made it something even more. And then, like, reflecting on, like, the Beatles in particular, like, even their career and the way that their lives developed and how they were brought together and who they were, it's all very, very archetypal, like arranged, like phenomenal. Like, we're talking about the phenomenon. To me, it seems like that was orchestrated almost by, not to say a non-human intelligence, but I mean, like, there was energy there that was not just the four individual dudes hanging out and playing music. It caught and transformed everything in a lot of ways. And even today, I can't watch a Beatles documentary without walking out dejected. Like, the fact that the Beatles broke up breaks my heart every time I'm talking about it. And there was something very happy and transformative about the four of them together, even beyond their toxicity and all of that, their music. And I just wonder how you think that fits within all of this.
Wow. So, I mean, those are great observations, and I thought about that too. And there's a bit of Beatles. There's a letter Paul wrote to John, and it's funny.
I threw the Beatles reference in the beginning in because
yeah. And I remember writing that letter first appeared in a newspaper, and I was writing imaginative. I was writing music pieces, but then I just sort of chose to do something like that. And just for the listeners, it was a letter Paul imagining to John and talking about their experiences together. And when I was writing it, James, I was feeling emotional, and I've read it, and I've gotten choked up when I've read it, because sometimes when I write, I want to feel emotional. I want to make myself, and sometimes I do make myself choke. That's a goal.
Yeah, and I would say I hope so. I mean, I hope that more writers have that same inclination. I mean, it's like, if you're feeling it, I feel like we're feeling it.
That's the hope and the goal, and you never know. That's certainly, and it's also a process of discovery for me and getting in touch with emotion. And so when these questions you asked, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I think that there is, first of all, the Beatles done that. There's something, even when they got, there was something so childish, playful, and the dynamics between them. And John had more, John's lyrics were a little darker, his music was darker, but Paul would lift it up and be, getting better all the time. And the harmonies. So that's a big part of the book that I wrote about. So the book it's written in the structure of the book, it mimics a polyphonic chorus. So in the spirit of Palestrina, who wrote polyphonic choruses, polyphonic means many voices. And this happens on many layers in the book. There are many voices in the book, not just my voice. There is something in harmonies, and when the Beatles came together, mostly in 3 parts, but sometimes in 2 parts, and there's just when I sing with, my wife is very good at creating harmonies on the spot, and I can do harmonies, it's kind of nothing, I'm not doing anything so unique, but hers are unique, and when we do them together, and the harmony is, I'm doing the note, you're doing the note, we're basically making it chord. And it just is so touching and moving. And this had the quality of the voices, the different influences that they were bringing in. Paul's harmonies are just, it's like he was beyond human. And sometimes you're like, is that one voice? What is he doing here? And I know there was some manipulation with engineering, but it was beyond that. It was truly beyond that. The combination of our styles. George brought in his, raga and kind of Hindustani styles, and his psychedelic and Indian classical.
Rockabilly before that,
Rockabilly.
Chet Atkins, he was trying to.
Yeah, Travis. Merle Travis, and there's country in their styles. John brought in, kind of in a way, like kind of rock and roll, straight ahead rock and roll, and dark lyrics, I Am the Walrus, and really off the charts, imaginative. And Paul brought in this kind of, hoppy. His lyrics are mostly always sort of less. I don't want to say interesting, but they're not as dark as John's. And then, and also what he brought in music, ragtime, and the way, the style of piano playing, review music.
Yeah, show tunes, kind of almost.
Show tunes.
Yeah, like he would just be all over the place.
Up the hill, this kind of, to the door. And I realized that's me. And then Ringo brings in real underestimated, first of all, marching band and a style that is, shimmery. And it's kind of, you can't do, this is where science fails. You can't break it down. It's just this action of things that they're in great bands and music. But man, they brought something super special, and they were so young. So they were young guys.
And the moment in history, like with the post-war years, and like them coming when it's like the whole culture was waking up, and so they were like riding the crest of that, like what do you call it when the frustration and sort of the angsty coming of age, recognizing the fault and failures of your predecessors, and like casting off that tradition, like it's just that's one of the things that makes me feel like music definitely has deeper connections that we even realize.
Changes culture. It's an interesting thing.
You're cutting out a little bit. Your audio is cutting out.
It's better? Maybe it's just momentary.
Yeah, it was just like flickering. Yeah, okay, now.
Just a moment. That was probably communication from elsewhere.
Okay.
But there's the Beatles' greatest hits album. I forget what it's called, but it's when they're young. They're on the cover and they're looking down. They're up from like a multi-story building.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And they're like these young guys with their haircuts and everything. And then there's the picture when now they're hippies. And it's kind of, it really hits me in the heart because they sort of, in a way, they kind of make. They're a main transformer of culture. I mean, they go to study meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. They take psychedelic substances, and in a way, they kind of propagate. It's not the taking of those things. It's the opening of the mind. It's the what music can do as ritual. George's songs are about God.
Yeah.
He's writing love songs to God. So I think I've probably gone way off the thing there, but this incredible collection of things when I listen to Palestrina, Renaissance composer, it's all voices, it's all choral, because the voice was the only, at that time, this was the most consistent instrument we had. You didn't have to, it wasn't an instrument that could go out of tune, that could be imperfect. The voice could be as perfect as anything could be. When you listen to Palestrina, I'm hearing the beginnings of the Beatles. These voices coming together. And there's the Mass of Pope Marcelli, that one in particular. It's like a portrait of the human soul when I hear it. And it's, to me, I remember when I read the book, I was at a kind of low point. I was separating from my wife, and I was depressed and feeling, clinically depressed. And I remember I would listen to Palestrina, and it was these angels taking me to a place of comfort. I don't quite have that same feeling when I listen to it now, but at that time it was this sacred thing. I hear it and I love it, but it doesn't have the emotional quality that quiet.
I wanted to touch on the harmony aspect of it. I'm a musician, so this is part of the reason why I enjoyed the book so much. But I was a lead guitar player for local bands, right? And at one point I started to sing, and up until when I first started playing, self-consciousness was a big problem for me. It was a big battle that I had to get over. And I eventually got through it, and I got to where I was confident enough to be able to solo, and I was a decent player, I think. But then I got hooked on singing, and I lost interest in playing guitar. For me, because there's a certain amount of motor coordination that goes along with playing and singing at the same time. And I could play rhythm and sing, but I can't lead and sing. It was too much for me because I had to focus on either the vocals or the lead playing, and so it got to where I didn't want to play lead anymore. I just wanted to sing backup vocals, because the feeling that you get from engaging in a multi-part harmony with other folks is like nothing else. It's like this connective high that it's because you are the instrument, like you mentioned, and you are vibrating. And It's like if it's a third, it's a certain feeling. If it's a fifth, it's another feeling. If it's a sixth, or however intricate you want to make it, it's like your body is going along on that journey, and so you're really feeling that emotional power through
Mm-hmm.
the vibrating sounds, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's a whole different kind of visceral approach.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to, like, I'm trying to. Well, my kids play music, but they don't sing that much yet, and I've been trying to, like, get them to sing with me because I just want to get back to that place, but I'm not really interested in going out and being in a band anymore. But
Right.
like, I want to recapture those, those sizzling harmonies that just kind of make the hair on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
Rise up.
I started doing that with my son. So I started. He took guitar lessons. Started like say 9 or so. He was never really that interested. His mom took piano lessons and studied music, and she was more insistent. He would basically only play during the lesson, but I would work with him on certain songs, and they were his songs, the songs of he was listening to, and we would play harmony. We would do harmonies, and it was fun. And I made him sing, like forced him to sing. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you tomorrow. And we played with the harmonies together, and it was fun. It was really. There's something that happens. You start smiling and looking at each other, and you're connecting. And with harmonies, you really have to let go, because at first you're going to get it all wrong.
And when that's wrong, it's like you want that exquisite harmony, and when it's not right, it feels awful at first. For me, I would like shrivel up because I feel like I ruined something sacred, So I really had to like kind of give myself permission to mess up at first to be able to kind of, finally achieve competence on it.
Your brain has to figure that out, and it's only by doing it and vocalizing it. I mean, some people have a gift. They can just step up and do it, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, bastards.
I hate them.
And then, I have an adequate voice. It's not like I have barely yell. But some people get up and they're doing head voice, and they're doing all these incredible things. And yeah, I love that. I wish, I joke around and say, they pay me to stop. That's like my joke. I play in a local bar here. I used to play a lot more in places, but it's 2 kids, writer, teaching English composition. I just can't. I don't have the time to practice, and it's just not as important. And also, since COVID, a lot of places closed down and stuff, so I used to have more places to go, and it was easy.
And it's hard to, like, and I was never a solo act. I would always have to play with other people, and maintaining those relationships can get difficult. And a lot of times with musicians, there is ego that comes into it, and people get convinced, or I've been in a band. And this is sort of totally off topic, but like where you want to have a democracy, and it totally doesn't work. But then I'm in another band that needs to be, you're like, finally someone's just going to decide what's going to happen. That's going to be way more efficient, and the guy turns out to be a total jerk. So that doesn't work. It's like sort of human civilization in microcosm. How do you govern, 4 or 5 people in a way that is effective and gets the job done without anyone getting butthurt or, overzealous?
Yeah, that's super I played acoustic guitar. I started to play acoustic guitar because it's orchestral. And you can do, it has rhythm. There's more rhythm in acoustic. You can feel the rhythms, and you can get more sounds. You get bass, trumpet sounds. You can get different sounds in an acoustic. You get the warmth of, chords and stuff. When I can, and I love to play with people, it's just, like you said, it's just hard. It's just hard. I haven't even gotten to the point where we're arguing with each other. We just can't find time to get together. It's mostly what it is.
It's the modern malaise of distraction and everything else. I did want to ask you a question that's about UFOs, sort of, but not necessarily the musical part. You're living in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
With your own situation. what are your thoughts? Are you hearing about people seeing those things, or what's your take?
Yeah, it's the drones are. It's kind of like the disclosure conversation, which for me I find very frustrating because it's sort of I don't know. I don't have inside track. I did get some because I'm in this community, and there are many people in this community, and someone reached out, a good friend of mine, and what he said, it was some kind of there was something like radioactive stuff that was in the Ukraine and was supposed to be transported back to the U.S. The container arrived, but there was nothing in it. And so the drones are going out to kind of scour the area is what he thought. Now, I don't know if it's true. It's really hard to say. It's perplexing. The government doesn't explain, which is, it gets everyone's freak on.
Exactly right. I mean, that's the main problem with all of this is the vacuum that's been created by the government who kind of wants to poo-poo it, but then, I mean, something major is going on, whether it's, whoever's doing it, there's so many sightings that this can't possibly be, mistaken flights. I mean, these people
right
in the neighborhoods, you see planes. I mean, you've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years or however long, you can learn to recognize the plane going into, JFK Airport or whatever. It's not that, and so they need to take those testimonies seriously, and they don't seem to be. But so they're not looking in your bedroom window at night or anything like that.
Well, that's something I was talking to my son about. That first of all, you have there's a lot of change in the world right now. You have a change of guard at this country. You have a lot of change happening in the world. There's a lot of big change afoot. Perhaps, I don't know. Is this a test of some kind? Is this a reconnaissance of just looking at something that we're not aware of what it is that they're looking at? Or are they just looking at us? Is this an experiment in observation? Some kind of, think of like martial law. If you wanted to declare martial law, maybe there's some data, whatever that was needed, who knows? But they were so ubiquitous, and they were beyond this, just New York. In New Jersey, they were everywhere, and people saw other things like orbs.
Yeah, no,
plasmatic light and things. So, I began the conversation with the deliteralization. And the one thing about this phenomena is it refuses to be literal. It's like dreams. When people have UFO experiences, they're often like dreams. The objects move in ways that don't adhere to physics. They can sort of zigzag, or their motions, the speeds, they appear, they disappear, they transform. A lot like dreams. And it's we have to live with the enigma, and it's. I think that's part of what I was trying to say in the book is that Blake had this idea that double vision, to see beyond the literal, which gives us greater depth. Yeah, there's literal stuff and we need it to get to work, to do the things you gotta do, to start your car, to get to work on time. But then there's this other stuff. The government messing with us or doing what they're doing, but messing with us by not telling us. But maybe by not telling us, maybe there's something that they shouldn't be doing. I hate to get into the conspiracy thing and go down that rat hole because it's like I don't know. I'm in pure speculation mode, and now I've heard, said, and you know how argument is.
Oh yeah. Someone told me in secret that he can't talk about it, but he's got insider knowledge.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to move over to the right a little bit. Keep moving to the right. Okay, now move back. Yeah, move to the right again. I want you to come forward. Real slow, nice and slow. Okay, just hover in place. I want you to go back. I want you to move back to where you just came from. Okay, now move over to the left a little bit. Yep, there you go. Now move up. Yep, move up. Now I want you to land. I'm gonna try to have you land. Okay, here we go. Let's go land. Okay, here we go. Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh my God! Oh, I'm so sorry, man. I am so sorry. Oh my God! This is awful. I'm very sorry. Please accept my apology. Oh my God! Oh.
Well, that didn't go well. Anyway, that was just for fun. Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we are going to talk about psionics. What are they? Is it real? This is something that Jake Barber, the new whistleblower to step forward, was talking about on News Nation last week with Ross Coulthard. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the whole idea, when you think about it, of taking control of an alien craft by simply tapping in with your mind is pretty crazy when you really think about it. But say these craft are, controlled by telepathy by these creatures. Then that goes without saying that maybe we could tap into them if we had the proper brain power to do so. And according to Jake Barber, he believes that that's something that the government does, that they have psionic people that are capable of taking control of a craft and bring it down. It's very interesting. We really have no proof other than what Jake Barber has been stating, or what he's reported so far, but it is something to think about. I mean, if it's real, it's like, wow. I mean, that's wild, right? I mean, that's extremely wild that you could basically take control of an alien craft. That's insane. But anyway, here's an article. This was in ovniologia.com, and the headline reads, "What are the psionics reported to the world by Jake Barber?" In his tell-all interview, whistleblower Jake Barber introduced the world to psionics, psychically gifted individuals who can mentally summon and even pilot alien craft. Let me just stop there for a second. I mean, this has to be a big... If this is really how it works, right? If this really works, right, then this has to be a big problem for the aliens, right? I mean, that some rogue human is somehow able to take control of one of their crafts and make it do what it wants. That would be a big problem for these creatures, I would have to say. Anyway, in his recent News Nation interview, UAP whistleblower Jake Barber introduced a surprising and unconventional element to the story of UFO retrievals, psionics. According to Barber, psionics involves individuals with heightened psychic abilities, which the United States government allegedly explored through secret programs aimed at summoning, communicating with, or even controlling unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP. Actually, that's unidentified anomalous phenomena. Anomalous. When are these people going to get it right? Anyway, at the core of Barber's claims is his account of being contracted as a helicopter pilot for a covert program tasked with retrieving crashed UAPs. He asserts that he witnessed psionics in action during these missions, with individuals attempting to establish a mental or spiritual connection with the phenomena. Barber describes psionics as individuals possessing a predisposition for extratemporal abilities and sensitivities, often associated with psychic powers. These abilities, he suggests, enabled psionics to interact with UAP in ways that defy conventional scientific understanding. For instance, psionic teams allegedly summoned UFOs to land or influenced their movements through meditative or mental techniques. Barber's revelations imply that some UAP retrieval missions are not the result of accidental crashes, but deliberate operations where UAP are invited to land. He recounts one such mission involving a craft he refers to as the 8-gon, a flying disc with 8 distinct sections visible from above. During this retrieval, Barber describes experiencing an overwhelming emotional reaction, which he attributes to a telepathic connection with a non-human intelligence. This account raises intriguing questions about the interplay between human consciousness and advanced aerial phenomena, adding a new dimension to the ongoing UAP discourse. Yes, I would say that it does add a new dimension, this whole psionic angle. And you have to wonder if it's true. I know a lot of people have trouble believing this part. And it does sound crazy, right? But telepathy to a lot of people is something that's real. I mean, even you yourself, you have to think about it. I know myself, right? There are things that happen sometimes, and I can't understand it because it seems more than a coincidence in many cases. Like there are things that happen sometimes. You're thinking about something or someone, and then that person calls you, for instance. I mean, isn't that a form of telepathy? And maybe we just haven't harnessed it correctly yet. Some of us have, and that's what's going on here. I think it's most certainly possible. I mean, we don't understand what's going on in this life or how we got here or what's the meaning of it all, really. I mean, nobody understands. So why is it so crazy to believe that some human beings are capable of doing this? It could be real. We really don't know. And of course, if you watch that episode, that News Nation segment with Jake Barber over the weekend, he basically stated that he tried to do this on his own with his own personnel later on. They were trying to do it, and they showed something in the sky. Was that person controlling it or not? We don't know. This is something that needs more research, obviously. But before people start laughing it away, I think it's something that people should think about. I mean, these beings themselves, they use telepathy. How many different stories have we heard from alien abductees who are controlled by these beings somehow telepathically? How I mean, so if they're able to do it, then maybe we can do it too. Maybe we just don't have the powers that they have. Maybe we're not strong enough yet, but maybe some of us somehow are able to do it. And I guess it's something that needs further exploration. I think it does, on its face when you first hear this, yeah, it sounds crazy, but it doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it's impossible. And I do got to say, I really like Jake Barber. I thought that he seemed a very sincere person. When I saw him in that interview with Ross Coulthard over the weekend, I believe that he's a sincere person. And I think that he's telling us his truth, his way he experienced it. He said he retrieved egg-shaped craft. He believes he had some sort of a telepathic connection with the advanced intelligence that was controlling that craft while he was going to get it. I think he was relaying a truthful event that occurred in his life. Now, as far as this psionic claims that there are people in the government that are capable of doing this, that are sometimes able to summon UFOs with their minds. I mean, we hear Stephen Greer talking about this with this CE5 stuff. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just something that requires further exploration and something for us to think about. I mean, I believe that these aliens are capable of communicating telepathically, and I do believe that there are some forces here that allow us sometimes to experience this. I mean, even if just to me, right, there are things that happen in my life over the decades, and I'm sure this goes for a lot of people out there, where you're thinking of someone, and then the next thing you know, that person contacts you, or you're thinking of something, and the next thing you know, somebody else is thinking the same thing, and it just happens all the time. It seems like there's something in the air. It's beyond just. To me, sometimes it seems like it's beyond just the collective unconscious. I think sometimes there are other elements at play here that we might have abilities we just haven't really tapped into yet. But this could be something that going forward becomes a thing. Psionics, as insane as it might sound, I think it's very possible. I mean, actually, Elon Musk, he's developing technology right now where you could operate things using your mind. So if we're experimenting with these things now, where do you think an advanced civilization is at with them? I think it is something that's possible, and I think that's now, of course, I want to point this out before I go any further, right? Now, there were some things that were shown in that segment over the weekend. Is there any absolute proof there? Not at all. It was all we're getting is whistleblower commentary. That's what we're getting. We're getting somebody who allegedly came close to these things. Do I believe him? Yes. I don't think this guy came out and is just making stuff up. No, I believe this guy. I believe he was working with the government, and that he did pick up objects that were probably alien in nature. And I think he's telling the truth. He's going to meet with Congress. Well, hopefully we'll see him in one of these open hearings at some point down the road. That will be interesting. We'll see how it all goes. But anyway, let's get back to this article. It says, during one operation, Barber recounts how a psionic individual participating in the mission sensed something wrong during their attempt to summon a UAP. Shortly afterward, a disc-shaped craft appeared in the sky, sparking what Barber described as a psychic dogfight between two UAP. Yeah, now this was something that was shown on that episode, that it was with Barber and people that he works with. They were just trying this on their own. The sky is not classified. I mean, if you want to try this kind of stuff on your own, like I did that faux version before this episode started to kick things off. Now, of course, that was just being trying to be funny there. But, maybe it does work. Maybe it could cause a UFO to come down. And actually, you have to wonder, it made me wonder, was that object that came down in Las Vegas in 2023, was that a craft? Was that brought down by some psionic, maybe? Someone with psionic abilities in the government, and they didn't realize that they were bringing it down in a residential neighborhood in Las Vegas. And guess what? You know what? It could have been egg-shaped. I mean, you look at that thing. I mean, yeah, could have been an egg. Who knows? It rendered itself invisible upon impact. I mean, who knows? Could have been. Maybe that's maybe that's the reason it came down. Maybe that's why the aliens seemed so out of knocked off kilter when they hit the ground, and they didn't know what was going on, and they were afraid of the human beings with the guns and trying to scare them away. Maybe that's what was going on. They were taken out of their elements suddenly because of some government psionic person. Somebody in the government with psionic abilities brought them down. Maybe they're trying to bring them down somewhere in the desert, or closer to Area 51, but unfortunately, they really couldn't. They lost control of it, and it came down in that Las Vegas neighborhood. Who knows? Who knows? We'll probably never know the answer to those questions, but it is something interesting to think about. Anyway, continuing here, it says, while the term psionics might sound like something out of science fiction, the idea of using psychic abilities for military purposes is not new. The infamous Project Stargate, a Cold War-era CIA and military initiative, spent years studying remote viewing and alleged ability to perceive distant locations or objects using the mind. In Barber's story, psionics takes this concept a step further. Rather than passively observing, these individuals are said to actively interact with UAP, potentially unlocking new methods of communication or control. Don Paul Bales, another Special Forces operator and colleague of Barber, corroborated these claims. Speaking to host Ross Coulthard in the News Nation special, he said, "I've had the pleasure of meeting multiple psionic assets. I've seen them function. I know that they're capable of doing what they're doing." Bales added that while it's unclear whether these abilities are something people are born with or a developed skill, there are individuals who are quantifiably and verifiably capable of such feats. Barber argues that his claims, while extraordinary, should not be dismissed outright. "I think everyone deep down knows that there is more to life than what we are being told and experiencing. Not only is it not shocking, but it should be welcome." You know what? I totally agree with Barber in that comment. With everything he just said, that's exactly what I was just stating earlier. We don't know what the hell's going on here. We don't even know what the hell this is all about or how it all started. We really don't know. Some people out there will claim they know everything, right? They don't know. We don't know. We don't know who these beings are. We don't even know where they come from. I know I say they come from other planets. That doesn't make me right, but I think it's going to turn out that way. But I could be wrong. They could be here the whole time. They could be from another dimension, things we don't understand, but there's something here. That's the bottom line. And he's right. You can't dismiss anything in this life, because I think anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. And you just can't dismiss everything. You just can't dismiss what the claims made here, because psionics might be a reality, and that's maybe you would have to imagine that an advanced alien intelligence that's here, that's operating these craft that we see, that people have been seeing for decades now, right? You would have to think that these things are being controlled telepathically, right? That's probably how they do it. So it's not so far-fetched that some people here, human beings that have telepathy ability, right, that they would not be, that you have to assume that they would be able to perhaps tap into these machines somehow, perhaps. I don't know. It seems outrageous, but at the same time, you would think that the aliens would have some sort of safeguards in place to prevent this from happening, but maybe they never even thought that this was something that was possible, and they never figured it out. Who knows? We just don't know. All of this is speculation. But I do believe that Jake Barber is telling the truth. I believe that this person is going to turn out. We'll find out. Maybe we'll never find out for sure. But I believe that, like, if all the information was to be laid out for us, we would see, okay, yeah, Jake Barber did have these experiences. These things are real. There is efforts within the government to use psionics to control UFOs. All of these things could be real. And I think he was giving us some truth in that interview with Ross Coulthard over the weekend. Anyway, continuing, it says, as well as airing Barber's interview as part of the special entitled "Hunting UFOs: The Crash Retrieval Whistleblower," News Nation also showed a piece of exclusive footage that Barber claims he shot during a UAP retrieval mission. The 11-second clip, now that's not the way I understood it. That clip came from someplace else, from what I understood. But anyway, it says here, the 11-second clip appears to show a white egg-shaped object suspended in a cradle beneath a helicopter on a long rope. Artifacts in the leaked footage suggest that the clip has been recorded from another screen, presumably the screen of an in-aircraft night vision system. We don't know, and we can't say with 100% whether that video was authentic or not that they showed. And I don't think it was made clear on where that video came from. This article here stating that it was him, but I don't think it was clear in that segment. Anyway, the perfectly smooth object is said to be around 6 meters long and has no markings and no visible means of propulsion, although there's also no visible evidence that it can move in any way for that matter. Many viewers have criticized the clip as underwhelming, overhyped, and damaging to the credibility of UFO research. While some connected the object to historical UFO cases like the Sapporo incident, others speculated it was a weather balloon or dismissed the explanations as inadequate. Overall, the reaction leans heavily toward frustration and ridicule, with only a few expressing cautious support or optimism. Well, like I've been saying, the only answer to all of this is absolute proof. If you put the absolute proof in your back pocket when you're going to make these videos, when you're going to make these specials on it, then it makes it more believable. When you present the absolute proof that we've been showing on this channel for about a year now, close to a year, then that adds something. When we're able to show for a fact that we're not alone, right, with absolute proof, then it makes these other wild claims more believable. People in the UFO community need to really start thinking this way. I'm telling you. It really works. When you have absolute proof in your back pocket, debunkers, it's almost like a debunker repellent. It's like Raid for debunkers. You spray Raid instead of spraying Raid. You just showed them the absolute proof, and they go running away. Right? It keeps them off you. It keeps them away. They can't even comment on it because they're so afraid. They know it's over, right? So when you bring the absolute proof and you talk about that, you mention it. Oh yeah, we have absolute proof. There's aliens. See. Here. Yeah. And so now Jake Barber is presenting this information, talking about egg-shaped crafts and psionics. So it makes all of it more believable when you have the absolute proof along with it. So that's what a lot of people in the UFO community need to start doing. When they present these things, say, we all know for a fact that there's aliens here because of this, and this, right? So this makes this more believable now, right? That's what they need to start doing. That's just my opinion. It doesn't make me right, but I probably am. I know, in my mind, I know I'm right. Let's put it that way. Okay, continuing with this article, it says the CIA has great interest in all this. I'm sure they do have great interest in it. It says during the Cold War, the CIA was involved in secret projects investigating psychic abilities with the aim of exploring their potential for intelligence and military operations. The most well-known of these projects was Project Stargate, which began in 1978 and ended in 1995. It focused on the application of abilities such as remote viewing, an alleged capability to see events, locations, or information at a distance without using conventional senses. The project involved training psychic spies to describe hidden locations or objects, a technique that was reportedly useful in cases like attempting to locate Soviet missiles and hostages. Despite some claims of success, such as a case where a psychic was able to locate a secret Soviet facility, the final report concluded that the evidence was inconsistent and not reliable enough to justify continued use. As a result, the project was discontinued, and the United States government concluded that the result did not offer a real strategic advantage. And they talk about another CIA project, MK Ultra, which took place between 1953 and 1973. That focused on mind control. MK Ultra sought to explore methods for manipulating the human mind and potentially developing psychic abilities. To this end, the CIA conducted a series of experiments with psychedelic substances such as LSD, as well as techniques like hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and even psychological torture. The idea was to expand human mental capabilities and study paranormal phenomena, but many of these experiments were carried out unethically, of course, often without the consent of the participants. Yes, of course. And I'll leave the rest of this article here for you to check out for yourself, but it's all very interesting. I think that it is a possibility because I think that these craft are probably operated telepathically by the creatures themselves. So with that in mind, I think that if we have human beings who are capable of the same kind of ability, or close to it maybe, then maybe they could take control of these crafts themselves. It's possible. We can't say for sure. All of it's speculation. But I thought that Jake Barber does, some of his what he's offered to this point. It gives us something to think about. It's food for thought, and I thought it was very exciting. Although I do have to agree that it still doesn't serve as absolute proof. I understand the frustration within the UFO community. Nothing that has been put forward by any whistleblower to this point serves as absolute proof, and I can understand that is very frustrating. However, we do have absolute proof in the public domain at this point. Just so everyone out there who doesn't realize this realizes it. There is absolute proof that we're not alone. There's no question about it. So keep that in mind. So with that in mind, that means that these things might be real too. Just want to point that out. Now, another thing that's happened ever since this story broke was that now there's all these egg photos of alleged egg craft have cropped up everywhere, all over the internet. Okay, and here's an article from Newsweek from today, or actually from a couple days ago. From today. Egg UFO photos flood social media, the headline reads. And it says here, a series of mysterious images and videos believed by some to depict an egg UFO have flooded social media, although the alien hunting community remains skeptical of their authenticity. Yes, I remain highly skeptical of their authenticity because there's no context. Just internet randos on 4chan uploading images of egg-shaped craft sitting in a cave somewhere. Some of them look like they have hieroglyphics on them. Come on. How do you? We don't know where these came from or who put them out there. There's no story, there's no background to go along with this. So how could anybody believe that these things are real right out of the gate? Some people do, though. I'm highly skeptical of it, and I believe everyone in the UFO community should be highly skeptical of it. It's funny that these photos get all of a sudden they flood the internet. Right after Jake comes on News Nation and talks about egg-shaped craft. All of a sudden now we have egg-shaped craft all over the place. Now, what does that tell you? Somebody went into their AI program and made them. That's what it tells me. Most likely. That's probably what happened. Anyway, it says here, an anonymous user or users posted a series of videos, images, and backstory on the message board 4chan on Monday, which were then reposted to Reddit and X, garnering thousands of likes and upvotes from UFO sighting enthusiasts. The viral images come days after former United States Air Force employee Jake Barber left alien hunters disappointed when the release of his widely hyped and anticipated egg UFO footage turned out to be grainy and unconvincing. Yes, again, like I just said, I think that Jake Barber's story is very interesting, and I think it deserves more attention. However, the video that was presented and the images, there's not a lot there to really hang your hat on them. Unfortunately, we just don't know. We can't say with 100% certainty about that stuff at all, and most especially with what we have on the screen right here. There's some pictures of these eggs in a cave here. Egg in a cave, and I don't know. It says here, images believed by some to show egg UFOs went viral on social media after an anonymous user or users posted them to message board 4chan on Monday and Tuesday. And you see a picture of it here. And anyway, article continues. It says, why it matters. A significant minority of Americans believe that global governments are concealing proof of UFOs and alien life from the public. Well, let me tell you something. That significant minority, they are correct. There is absolutely no doubt about it. that world governments are covering this up, and they've been doing so for many decades now. There is absolutely no question about it. We know that there's something here, and we know that they have to know about them, right? Right? We know this, right? Anybody with even a quarter of a brain cell in their head has to know this. Congress held hearings about reported UFO sightings in 2023. Users on social media forums, including Discord, Reddit, and 4chan, routinely post what is claimed to be leaked government information relating to broader theories that occasionally includes real classified intelligence. In December 2024, for example, the Federal Aviation Authority confirmed to Newsweek that a pilot reported unidentified lights after leaked video of the pilot speaking to air traffic control about a UFO went viral on social media. On Saturday, Jacob Barber appeared on News Nation to discuss his account of experiences recovering unidentified aerial phenomena. And again, anomalous phenomena. Anyway, describing an egg-shaped object recovered by helicopter said to be part of an under-the-radar UFO retrieval program. Green-tinted footage aired during the broadcast showed a white object said to be tethered to a helicopter by cable and being transported. Most viewers were unconvinced. Yeah, I mean, there was really not a lot there to really get excited about, really. You know what I mean? I'm not going to show the video on here because it is a News Nation exclusive, but there's not a lot to get excited about regardless, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this show right now have already seen that video. By Monday morning, an anonymous user or users on 4chan shared videos and images resembling the News Nation footage, claiming they depicted an egg UAP discovered in an Antarctic ice cave in 2022. Ooh, in Antarctic too yet. Antarctica, wow. The original anonymous poster described the object as of ancient origin and said they would reply to questions from other users. See, I mean, anybody could do something like that. I mean, you could invent your own egg-shaped object inside of a cave, your own pictures, throw them on 4chan and say, I'm taking questions. This was discovered in Antarctica. How do we know where it came from? We don't even know who the person is that's posting it. Is he a former government personnel? Like, where's the other? There needs to be more than just the pictures alone. I mean, this is foolish that anyone would just fall for this, but some people do. Other images and answers about the UAP were posted by anonymous users in the replies, purportedly by the original poster. Because 4chan users are anonymous, their identity is not verifiable. Some of these replies claimed the News Nation footage was real. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, who are these online presences that people rely on here? On X, user Billy Kryzek reposted some of the egg images, claiming that in his analysis, he is 99.2% sure these photos of this egg are real. Okay, I just don't know. Again, I just don't see how anybody could say that with that sort of authority. 99.2%? User at Daily UFO Posts wrote on X about the 4chan images. This is huge. Massive to moving disclosure forward. How is that massive? I mean, seriously, how is it massive? Pictures that from unknown sources posted by anonymously on 4chan, that's moving disclosure forward in any way, shape, or form? No, it's not. It does nothing. It's an insult to intelligence. When you don't have any background whatsoever other than the pictures themselves, you don't know what those pictures, where they came from. I mean, with the way AI is right now, anybody could have made them up. Yeah, and actually, one of the objects, somebody actually said that here. Somebody said it looks like that it was computer generated. Another user, Garden of Smegma, posted a close-up of one of the images, claiming that when zoomed in, the cave surface in the egg UFO image appears computer-generated. This post garnered 2,800 upvotes by Wednesday. Yeah, if you look at it close, it could be that it was AI-generated. I don't know. I don't even know if you could. How do you tell that's AI-generated? But again, the whole problem comes from we don't know where these images came from. See, that's why certain stories, UFO alien encounter stories, are better than others. Some are way better than others. Like if you look at something like the Ariel school incident, for instance, right? That story is way better because we had over 60 little kids